All right, I want to share a pretty good story with y'all tonight. We was talking about this just a few days ago, and I had a little bit of a re-encounter with this the mysterious minivan, um, and basically what the story's going to be about is having to drive, having a restricted license, and having to be home before the the time was up. And what got me thinking about it a lot was on the way back from the rod run. Uh, it's been longer than I realized. It's been about 2 months ago. I was on my way back, and I was coming out of Anderson, and I was almost home. And sometimes you do stuff you probably shouldn't do. Speed limit's only about 55. And as a black fella in a minivan, and that reminded me about this older black gentleman in a minivan when I bought a car and trying to make it home. And we're coming out of Anderson, and I mean, this minivan is just hauling rear end. I'm in my 59 Impala, 348. And I mean, we're just sailing down the Belton Highway. And anyway, I drove from Anderson to Belton in probably 7 or 8 minutes, and it got me thinking about this gentleman and how I was able to make it home and beat the curfew. Now, let me go ahead and do a PSA on this. I do not recommend doing what I did. And if you are watching this video and have a restricted license and you're going to be close on getting home one night, don't do this. You're much better to get caught a few minutes after your curfew. You're probably going to be fine. They're probably going to tell you to get on home or make up some excuse that you left work or something. Then do what I did. Because here's what I did. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Briefly, I had a 70 Monte Carlo. I hit the ditch. I took some insurance money and I sold the car. Had Smith Bolton out, fixed the front end, left the dent in the quarter panel, and sold the car because a friend of mine in Chattanooga, Tennessee had a 72 numbers matching 402 big block car. And I just had to have it. Now, at the time, what I paid for this car, I got a lot of parts and stuff to go with it, but I give probably more than the car was worth, but that's kind of either near nor there. If there's any car I kind of regretted that I look back on, I'd just rather had the one I sold for it, would have probably been the situation. But here's what happened. We left early that morning. I dropped the other car off in Cherokee, where I'd sold it the week before at the Cherokee Rod Run, and it's why this was in the November time frame, and I want to say 2007 is when this happened, because I was a junior in high school, and after sitting here thinking about it, this was when it most made sense. So it's been 14 years this month, within a few days. And Cherokee Rod Run, I just had that, and coming up on Thanksgiving, and that's about when the time that's happened. So I got to Chattanooga. I loaded the car. I was with Pop, and he was in his El Camino at the time, his 80 model. And we test drove the car. I ended up buying the car. I think I want to say I give like $4,200 for the car and a buttload of hodgepodge of parts. I can't remember. They were seats and just a bunch of miscellaneous. I think bumper bracket. I can't remember. It filled the bed. It filled the truck bed of the El Camino. So I think it was like $3,700 for a car and like $500 for all the parts. I mean, whatever. But I'm looking at my phone, and now you got to remember I'm 15. I'm still on my restricted license. So again, I had about 6 months before it became a regular license. And I look at my phone, and it's like, dang, it's like, I remember vividly seeing 2 something on my phone. I want to say 2:15 or something. We're standing there talking, and I was kind of remember like, I got to be home at 6. So I leave there, go to the gas station, and all that, top off, fill the car I just bought up with gas. Now, mind you, this car ain't been drove further than 10 miles in 30 years, okay? Brent had done like a head gasket, intake gasket, a few things to get it running. I think he did a little work to the brakes. The tires, very questionable. I want to say they were dry rotted. They looked safe, they held air, but they were cracking. Not on the sidewall, but in the little bit on the sidewall. And again, that's going to factor in more later on in the story. So we get on Interstate 77. Now, I just looked up on my phone. Right now, I can drive from here to Chattanooga, Tennessee, not figuring where his house and all's at, 3 hours and 40 minutes. That's with no traffic. This was not a no traffic time. We ran into a jam on 77. 75 South. 77's in Charlotte. 75 South from between Chattanooga and Atlanta. And it was probably a slow down, not stop completely, but just probably 20 miles an hour for probably 10 miles. And we wasn't driving like maniacs. And I'm not really looking at the clock at this point. I'm still wondering how in the world I'm going to make it home by 6 o'clock. But I was more worried about making it home by 6 o'clock than I was getting myself killed getting home by 6 o'clock. So, again, being young, that was my mentality. Got to be home by 6 o'clock. I'm not going to defy the state-issued curfew. I'm going to be home at 6 o'clock. Because I'm driving to Monte Carlo, Papa's in the El Camino, loaded down with a bunch of crap. So we're on 285 coming around Atlanta. And I know a lot of y'all's been on 285, and it is pure hell at times. So, and 85. But at 285, you do bypass the city. So we're on 285. We're coming around. Finally, I'm keeping looking at my phone. At this time, it's like, I don't know what time it was, but I want to say it was after 4 o'clock. It was something like 4:15. Maybe even closer to 4:30. It may have been 4:30, closer to 4:30. And now, mind you, I'm over 100 miles from home at this point. I don't know how I'm going to get home by 6 o'clock. Matter of fact, I'm already planning. I'm probably going to have to park the car and call them to come meet me. I'm going to get as far as I can get and try to get to Anderson County. If they have to come get me, ride with me home, I'd be fine. So, you know how people drive in Atlanta? Wide open. So, I'm just going right along with them. The speedometer to Monte Carlo didn't work very well, but it's bouncing somewhere between 75 and 90 coming out of Atlanta. Just like this. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Got a little shimmy in the wheel. Not bad. It's running pretty smooth. You can feel that torque of that big block, I feel like I'm And, well, as we get out of Atlanta, get back on the Interstate 85, and we get out of Atlanta, and the road narrows back up from 6 lanes to 3 lanes I can't remember where I picked up the guy in the minivan. But there was a older black guy. Actually, no, I didn't know who was driving the minivan. I only found out who was driving the minivan 100 miles later when I finally got up alongside of him to look over to see who it was, and it was a Now you got to remember, this was 15 years ago almost, so this could very easily have been a World War II vet driving this thing. Because he looked like he was in his 70s, and now most World War II vets are 90 plus if they're the ones we still have left. It seemed like he had some type of hat like that on. Can't remember quite, but he looked like somebody who would have been that type of. He looked like a respectable gentleman. So here I am, 15. Ain't had my license very long. And as we come out of Atlanta, the pace is getting faster and faster and faster. I'm trying to keep up with this minivan. I'm doing everything I can. But this Monte Carlo speedometer is now bouncing between 90 and 110. Don't know how fast I'm going. Finally, I floorboarded the accelerator. And it's bouncing all over the place, and I just feel, ooh, it felt like I got so fast I was scared. And I pulled within maybe 100 yards of the minivan. The minivan just kept pulling away. I don't know how fast this minivan was driving, but now you got to think, this went on from Atlanta to the South Carolina line. A good 75 or 80 miles from there to there. And then finally, when I got to the South Carolina line, I kind of dialed it back a little bit because I looked at my phone and I had made so much time. I knew I was going to be home on time. Now, to show you how fast I had outpaced my grandpa, I got off exit 11. And then, like I said, when I got almost to Livonia, I pulled up alongside the guy. I look over there, and it's this old black guy in the minivan. He's grinning from ear to ear. Got his whole family in the car. Like, he's just out for a Sunday afternoon drive, but he's been driving 110 miles an hour from Atlanta. I've never seen anything like this. So, again, a car I don't know anything about, dry rotted tires. But, by gosh, I was going to get home before 6 o'clock. It didn't matter if I killed me and half of Atlanta in a pileup. I was getting home before 6 o'clock. Did I get home before 6 o'clock? Well, I had to stop. I didn't know how much gas was in this car. So I stopped and put $10 worth in it. At the boat dock gas station out on 24. I rolled in the yard, and I did not speed from there on home. I drove in the yard at 5:57 p.m. Somehow I had made it from Chattanooga, Tennessee to here at my house in Belton in less than 3.5 hours, and that included a traffic jam. I believe I drove from Atlanta to home in an hour and a half. Will that ever happen again? No. If you see this story, do not do what I did. But in my teenage mind, I was going to risk life and limb to get home before 6 o'clock. There's no state law worth risking that, people. But like I told them the other day at the restaurant when I was telling this story, by gosh, I made it home before 6 o'clock. Hope y'all enjoyed that story. Don't do that. And don't drive cars 100 miles an hour with dry rotted tires. And next time, kind of like old Bobby Bear in the song he had about the jogger, where he tips his hat because he got outrun by a jogger that was a ghost. Next time you see an old black man driving a minivan, just smile and wave, because you won't be able to keep up with them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.